Greetings, my future parishioners and those who are considering becoming members of our unique church, God's Church of Our Missteps. I am Clifton Andrew Castile, your Privy Counselor. You know, I was preparing a sermon for Sunday, and I said, why don't you take a break and inform the congregation while we're standing procuring an empty building for our church. But you know what? Let me confess something to you. My two most favorite books of the Bible are 1 Corinthians and Job. You know, 1 Corinthians gives us a workable definition of what love is not. You know, it's not selfish. Now, it doesn't tell us what love is. No one can tell you what love is. And Job, a godly man who worshiped God, believed in God after he had lost all of his earthly possessions. You know, people say, why don't you curse God and die? You're suffering, Joseph. Get it over with. He said, no, I will not. You know, today, some of us believe, rightfully so, that the world has gone so bad. You don't know what to do about it. You know, we have so much suffering, so much violence, so much hatred, so much racism, so much prejudice. We just don't know what to do. We believe that, to survive, we must become a lion to frighten, to fight off those wolves who are trying to cut our throat. And we must become a fox to frighten those people, to recognize traps that they have set for us. Because you see, they're setting traps to take everything that we have. We don't want that to happen. Well, this church, God's Church of Our Missteps, are going to do something about it. Now, let me tell you this. I met with this gentleman, a retired minister, and at his church, well, it's abandoned now. It's been abandoned for maybe 4 years. You can see a picture behind me. It seats maybe 90 members, and it needs a lot of work done on it, especially on the inside, but we can take care of that. And he wanted $1,200 per month. I think we can get him down to about $900 a month. And he said to me, Pastor Castile, God called you late in life, right? I said, no. He said, wait a minute. I got to ask you, how old are you? I said, between you, me, and the bedpost, I'm 80 years of age. He said, oh my God. I wonder why God waited so late to call you. I said, God did not. He said, you know, I've been retired for about, I think he said 4 years. And I think he said at 72 or something he retired. And why so late? I said, well, as I said, God never called me. I said, I knew when I was yay high to a duck's back that I could make a difference, that I could encourage people to go into their compassionate heart and be empathetic to those who are suffering. I said, Reverend, I know I can do it, but you know what? I wanted to tell Reverend this. Reverend, all of these ministers who proclaim that, oh, God called me in the midnight hour and say, I want you to be a vessel for me. No, God did not call them. They should have just said, you know what? I just believe that I can be a motivator using the good book. But they don't say that. And I said, let me tell you this. The best sermon that I have ever heard came from someone who God did not call that person. They had been incarcerated, a young man for decades. And he said, I just knew I could be a force for change. And when I heard his sermon, Reverend, I started crying. I couldn't control myself. The usher came over there with a box of Kleenex, used a whole box, and with a little old fan fanning me. And I said, I'm going to shout. I can't stop from crying. And she had to hold me down. That's what a sermon can do for you. And it didn't come from God. It came from that young man. He said, well, Brother Castile, what should I call you? Reverend or Honorable Minister Castile? I said, no. He said, well, what's that word you said? I said, Privy Counselor. I said, you know what, though? Just call me Castile. You don't want me to call you Apostle or Bishop Castile? I said, no. Well, what denomination? I said, it's non-denomination, sir. What? I don't understand this. I said, let me say this to you. We're going to have a unique church. And I'm going to tell you about it. There will be no tithing to our church. What? Get out of here. Where are you going to get money? I said, oh, some people have money and they'll give, and we'll encourage them to give. But no tithing, no mandated that you tithe to the church. For so long, I've heard ministers say, if you tithe to the church, you'll get to the promised land. Or if you sow a seed, you'll get it back 100 times over. Or if you don't have what you want, God knows that you don't need it, even though you are as poor as Mother Hubbard. And they tell you some foolishness like that. No, we won't leave you with false hope. If someone should tell those ministers, then you give up your salary. Well, I don't understand. I said, Castile. I said, I'm not going to take a salary. Well, where are your money? I said, oh, the money's going to come from the community, from those businesses in our community that surrounds our church. You know, for so long, they overcharged us, and they follow us around their store as if we were going to steal something. They give us spoiled food and all of that kind of stuff. When we're going to do something about it, we'll boycott them if they don't contribute to make a difference in that community, Reverend. He said, I just don't understand this. I said, well, let me tell you something else. We will write grants, federal grants, city grants, state grants to help with the church. And there'll be other charities that will help us. And I went on to tell him, I said, listen, Reverend, about our unique church, God's Church of Our Missteps. We will not tolerate jealousy. I will not, under no circumstance, allow my members to be jealous of each other. You see, jealousy for so long have destroyed the church, have destroyed lives in the underserved communities, because the church tentacles could not reach out to help those. And I will not stand for it. It is worse than violence. I won't have it. Now, let me tell you something, Reverend, about a few of our church canons. As I said before, no tithing to the church. If you want to give, that's fine. We'll encourage mentoring. And, you know, so long I hear people say, oh, I had a mentor. Oh, I'm so proud. Are you doing anything? Oh, no, I'm not going to do anything. We're going to have big brothers to say, listen, to be respected, you must be respectable. You must wear your clothing in a proper manner. You must be groomed. You must be mannerable and polite. And you'll see, it'll take you very far. And for those young ladies who are going to be big sisters, they're going to say to their charges, you know what, you don't have to get pregnant to feel important. I know you feel like sometimes that you don't matter, and I know all females want to look good. I know on the televisions you don't see anybody who very seldom rather look like you who say they are pretty, but you are pretty, and I'm going to help you to get there. We're going to encourage people to become foster parents, not just in our church, but in the community, in the city. We're going to help them. We're going to find gainful employment for people in the community, in the church, in the city. Because when people have gainful employment, they feel better. They contribute more. We'll have counseling for single fathers in the community church. We'll have free daycare. And we definitely can get block grants for that. That's no problem there. And here's something else that we need to get, all churches should, and that is reduce medical coverage. In other words, all members of God's Church of Our Missteps will have health insurance. How are we going to do it, you say? Well, they're going to pay just a few dollars. In other words, we'll write grants. They call block grants. The government will give that to us. So often we hear ministers say tithe to the church, and their members do not even have health insurance. Oh, not in our church. We'll encourage people to go to those who are shut in, you know, escort them to the doctor's office, spruce up their homes and so forth. We'll encourage those to go to senior citizen facilities. And if it's a man, we'll get barbers to go out there, cut the hair, shave them, and so forth. For women, they'll go out there and they'll say, okay, I'm going to do your hair, makeup, and all that. And those people will say, I feel good about myself. It's been 10 years since I felt this good. Anyone cared about me. Now, there's so many other things we're going to do. Every able body, Reverend, will contribute 4 hours their labor per week I won't stand for, I don't care if they are using a walker. There's something they can do. Read the Bible to someone. Just become involved with those who are suffering, those who need a seat. We won't hold hands and say we'll pray the problem away. And so often I've heard people say, you know what, someone really helped me. It was during a hurricane. I had no place to stay, or a flood, or house burned down. Well, what are you doing? Well, I'm not doing anything. You see, I gave my soul, my life to Jesus Christ. What? Yes, you go get your life. You won't say that kind of foolishness in our church, not in God's Church of Our Missteps. Jesus Christ doesn't even want your life. You probably don't want it yourself. No, we're going to make this a better world. And I know I need to get back really to my preparing my sermon, but you know, I don't know what I'm going to give a title to. I know it's going to be centered around heaven on earth. We're not going to give you false, you know, you'll have heaven up there or the promised land. We know heaven can be right here, and so can the promised land. But I think I'll call it Becoming a More Beautiful World. You know, I have 3 videos on that, sermons, so to speak, and I'll call it Becoming a More Beautiful World, Racial Empathy and Not Inculpating. Oh, we're going to get there. It's going to be a more beautiful world than you can imagine. You just stay with me. Oh, boy. Oh, God's going to be proud of our church.